Imagine losing over 3 decades of your life for something you never did. Imagine walking into a police station as an innocent man and walking out branded a criminal. This is the story of Sidney Holmes, a man who spent 34 years behind bars in Florida for a robbery he did not commit. A story of injustice, hope, faith, and the relentless power of truth. It was June 19th, 1988, a hot Sunday afternoon in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 2 people had just parked outside a convenience store when a brown Oldsmobile Cutlass pulled up. 2 men jumped out, pointed guns, and demanded everything. Within seconds, the robbers were gone, speeding off in that same Cutlass. No one was hurt, but fear rippled through the community. The victims gave descriptions, but the details were vague, just a car and 2 men. Days later, a name was whispered to detectives. Sidney Holmes. Maybe he drives a Cutlass like that. And that's all it took. A maybe. Sidney Holmes was a 23-year-old man, quiet, hard-working, with a close-knit family. He had no criminal record for violent crime. He lived a simple life, helping out at home, working steady jobs, dreaming of starting his own business. When police brought him in, Sidney thought it was a mistake that would clear up in a few hours. But that's not what happened. Despite having multiple witnesses confirming his innocence, and despite major differences between his car and the one used in the robbery, Sidney became the prime suspect. Why? Because one of the victims believed she recognized his car. No fingerprints, no physical evidence, just a car that looked similar. Sidney's trial was short, almost shockingly so. The prosecutor built the entire case around that mistaken identification. The defense tried to explain the differences in the cars, but the jury wasn't convinced. And in 1989, Sidney Holmes was sentenced to 400 years in prison. 400 years, for a crime he didn't commit. His mother fainted in the courtroom. His father, tears in his eyes, whispered, "Son, don't give up. God sees." As Sidney was led away in handcuffs, he kept repeating under his breath, "I didn't do this. I didn't do this." But the system had spoken. Days turned into months. Months into years. Sidney learned to survive, to breathe inside a place built to crush the human spirit. He watched cellmates come and go. Some were released. Some died. He celebrated birthdays through bars. His mother grew old. His father passed away before ever seeing his son free again. He once wrote in a letter, "Prison is not just made of concrete and steel, it's made of stolen time." Still, Sidney kept faith. He worked in the prison library, read law books, filed appeals, and prayed every night. And even though every door slammed shut on him, he never stopped believing the truth would come out. In 2019, decades after his conviction, a miracle began to take shape. The Broward State Attorney's Conviction Review Unit, a team that investigates wrongful convictions, took a fresh look at his case. They found what Sidney had been saying all along. The witness identification was deeply flawed. The differences between his car and the robber's car were clear. There was zero physical evidence tying him to crime. And even more shocking, the real perpetrators had long been identified, and Sidney was never one of them. The review team concluded that Sidney Holmes was factually innocent. On March 13th, 2023, after 34 years behind bars, Sidney Holmes walked free. He was 57 years old. When he stepped out, his family was waiting, tears streaming, arms open wide. He hugged his mother and whispered, "I told you I'd come home." The crowd around cheered. Reporters asked how he felt. He smiled, tired but peaceful, and said, "I never lost faith. I knew this day would come." But freedom wasn't simple. Sidney had to rebuild his life from scratch in a world that had changed completely. No cell phone, no internet, no idea how to use a touchscreen. And yet, he carried himself with grace, not anger. He forgave those who took his life away. He told reporters, "Holding hate doesn't fix anything. I want to live whatever years I got left in peace." The state of Florida later acknowledged his innocence. He was eligible for compensation, but no amount of money could repay 34 years of stolen time. Sidney Holmes' story is not just about one man's tragedy. It's a mirror reflecting a justice system that sometimes fails the very people it's meant to protect. A reminder that wrongful convictions destroy lives, families, and generations. But also A reminder that truth, no matter how long it takes, can still rise. 34 years behind bars, for nothing, yet he walked out smiling. Because forgiveness is freedom too. Justice delayed is not justice denied, but it is always too late. The story of Sidney Holmes. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more updates on interesting injustice stories like this.